Welcome back to Nineworks TV. As you can see, Little Irish is on the ramp behind me. I'm at Right Tune. It's the third time the car has been back at Right Tune this year for a mixture of maintenance, repair and also tuning. And it gave me the idea, well, how much does it cost to run a 996, particularly this one, in the last year? Best get the calculator out, I think. Well then, we're indoors for this one. Weather outside is pretty rubbish, so we're in the office. Got the car's paperwork for the year here. There's a lot. So we're going to go through it and work out what that magical figure is, okay? What I've done, and I'm going to share this screen as we go. So I've created a spreadsheet, because spreadsheets are awesome. And I've split it into 5 sections. We've got parts and labour, because I think it's nice to distinguish where the parts came from and also who's done the work. So there's that. And then we've got a traffic light system, service, maintenance and tuning. As you can see on the left, service is in amber. Next to it is maintenance in red, because it's not really the stuff that we like to spend our money on, just maintaining the vehicle to keep it on the road. And then we've got tuning in green, because tuning we don't mind spending our hard-earned on. At the start of 2021, I had aspirations about wheels, exhausts and seats. Unfortunately, it just went down to boring bits on the car to either replace parts that had been lost outright or that were just generally knackered. So that was a load of stuff that I picked up from Heritage Parts Centre that included a front under tray, 2 front anti-roll bars because the bushes had perished on mine, they're an MOT fail, and Goodrich stainless brake lines. Now, although that is a performance upgrade, I've put it in the maintenance because the brake lines on my car were corroded, so I'd have had to have replaced them anyway. That came in at 293 quid, just under. I took the car to Right Tune, as we well know, it's well documented there, the trusted experts to look after my car. So while I was there, I also got some golf competition racing brake fluid. Again, I wanted to upgrade the brake system on my car just in terms of pedal feel and longevity of performance. Low temp thermostat I've put in tuning. Is it maintenance? Is it tuning? Well, I look at it as tuning, it's safeguarding, I suppose, so it's preventative rather than reactive. I spoke about that earlier this year, so I put it in the green. I didn't mind spending out on that. I then needed 2 factory engine mounts because mine failed, a new header tank because mine split, that was eye-watering, that was 408 quid including the VAT. I needed an extra bit of brake pipe just before the section where it goes up and over the gearbox, so that could have been even more labour intensive than it was. I've also put down some coolant and ancillaries, plus the labour from Right Tune at the time came out, as we can see, the labour 504 quid, the parts approaching £1,000. So an expensive start to the year. I then needed new tyres because I found out mine were pretty much bowled all round. I went for Michelin PS4s, as I've mentioned on Instagram. 514 quid just under by Quick Fit. Then I actually had my first little bit of proper fun with the car in terms of expenditure this year. So this is the height of summer now, about July time. 420 quid on that 917 style wooden shifter. Got that from Stuttgart Classica. I then got some 15mm spacers off eBay for 85 quid. The reason I did that, I bought some 7mm spacers last year, put them on the back, but I still wasn't quite happy with the stance. I wanted the wheel to just feel that arch a bit more. The current setup does that now. I moved the 7mm spacers that were on the back axle forward to the front and then put the 15mm spacers on the rear. Looks absolutely mega for 85 quid. Completely worth it. Highly recommended. Then it was MOT time, which was end of August. I needed a new steering rack. I got a reconditioned one from Design 911. If you want to get a brand new one from Porsche, it's about £2,000. Absolutely eye-watering. So Design 911 it was. Don't forget you can buy a lot of these parts online at nineworks.co.uk/shop. Okay, it's really important to say that first of all. There's over 60,000 parts, Porsche parts, all online under Nineworks. So go and take a look. Also, if you're using Heritage Parts Centre, don't forget at checkout, enter the code NINEWORKS10 to get 10% off. To fit the steering rack, 378 quid from Right Tune, and the MOT itself, 40 quid. So again, August, another expensive month. All in to keep good old Little Irish on the road. Yes, now on to October. So you may remember, if you follow me on Instagram, that I got stuck at the side of the road in the middle of October. My alternator failed, basically. I looked to go to Porsche main dealer for this, just to replace the alternator. So parts and labour, 1,083 quid. Not in a million years was I going to pay that. My preferred specialist, Right Tune, were 2 hours up the road. They weren't really feasible. So in the end, I went to a good old local garage. I think for more straightforward jobs that aren't Porsche specific, there's nothing wrong with using your local garage. I did that. I used a local garage here. 367 quid for the alternator. That's reconditioned. If you want a new alternator, I think it was a couple of £100 more. Both items were Bosch, by the way, new or reconditioned. So I went for reconditioned Bosch at 367 quid. 60 quid to fit it. That's an hour and a half's labour at the local garage. Criminally cheap, really, but obviously I was happy to oblige. That sorted the alternator issue, and Little Irish was back on the road by the end of the month. Then November time, 24k service from Right Tune. I've just put that as all labour. That was 402 quid, slightly cheaper because I already had a new belt with the alternator the previous month, so the guys didn't replace that. While the car was there, I also had the anti-roll bars, gearbox mount and cross braces shot blasted and powder coated black, just so it looks a little bit neater underneath the car. And to finish the year on something of a high, I actually spent money on some fun with the car, which was the Gundo hack. More on that in another episode. While the car was at Right Tune, because it was Right Tune that did the hack, the modification, I thought, well, why not? Let's treat myself as well as the car. That is pretty much it for the year. Just so much paperwork, which signifies it was an expensive year, but hey, it's first world problems completely. I'm very well aware of that. So if we add all of that up, we do the parts first, which as you can see comes to £3,235.57. Then the labour on top of that, which was I think actually all at Right Tune, comes to 2,038 quid. Okay, so if we add the parts and labour together for service, maintenance and tuning on Little Irish, that brings for 2021 a total of £5,273.57. If you then add on the annual tax, it's £283.50. My annual insurance on top of that, it's a specialist insurance, is 500 quid on the nose. Add all of that up and that brings a grand total of £6,075.57 for the privilege of driving my 996 Carrera for 1 year. So there we have it, the comprehensive breakdown of expenditure for 2021, which, if we're being honest, has been pretty horrific. Perhaps the most devastating thing is that for all that money spent this year, well, the car looks exactly the same, quite literally exactly the same, minus the spacers front and rear, as it did 12 months ago. I did that video at the start of 21 outlining my ambitions for the car, which really was more from a performance and aesthetics point of view. What I plan to do for the year ahead, none of which came true. The Gundo hack is a halfway house, more on that in another video. The spacers admittedly are a small, if insignificant win in the grand scheme of things. So, a pretty horrific year on the old financial, but it's not all bad news, and I'll explain why. For starters, the optimist in me is saying, well, at least your engine's not gone pop, because if it has, and they do on these cars, well, your expenditure would have been double what it was this year anyway. So that's a good thing. We take that as a small win. Otherwise, though, I think it's important to look at the bigger picture. The 996 historically has always been the entry-level 911, really. Prices have been so low for so long that most of them have been neglected and uncared for. This car was definitely an example of that, twinned with the fact, and I've said it in previous videos, this car's 25 years old now. Most cars by the age of 25 have been cubed, so it's remarkable that these cars are still on the road, as with 70% of Porsches, and the reason is people are investing in them. And the 996, where values have gone up slightly, well, it makes sense to invest in them, whereas perhaps in the past owners have been more open to the idea of cutting a few corners or letting a few jobs that perhaps had an expensive outlay attached to them, letting them slide for a couple of years. The other thing is, well, okay, at face value, I'm £6,000 down to run this car for a year, but that has been offset by the fact that these cars have appreciated in the last year. Not by £6,000, but I would certainly say that this car, in terms of insurance purposes, has an uptick of around £3,000. So the deficit is only half. That's where it starts to get a little bit less painful, because you go, okay, well, I've lost £3,000 for what is a hobby. There are a lot more expensive hobbies out there, let me tell you, especially when you consider that's over the course of a year and how many miles of fun we've had with the car. £3,000 really you could blow on 2 weeks skiing. I've lost it over a year's worth of motoring on a car, and I've still got an asset at the end of it, which you don't have with skiing. So that's my assessment of the last year of 996 Carrera ownership. A couple of lessons to take away. It is more expensive than you might think, certainly more expensive than I thought. I've had a really unlucky year, but my engine hasn't gone. It could have been worse. In previous videos we've said budget around £2,000 per year for upkeep on your 996. After this video and the year I've had, I would say £2,000 you need to budget for a good year. You do need a contingency plan in place for a little bit more than that, as I've highlighted here. Doesn't matter how cheap you pick up one of these cars, they're still very much Porsche money to run. I hope you found this video useful and enlightening. For me, it was definitely enlightening on the brain, just lightening on the old financial. My wallet has definitely had something of the Vice-App pack treatment this year, that's for sure. Does that mean my bad luck is over and I'm at the end of the financial outlay? Well, finding the bottom of my condenser this morning would suggest not. Thanks as always for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It means when I drop a video, you get to see it first. I'll see you in another video soon, where no doubt I'll be spending even more money on this 996 Carrera.